Honestly, that was a bombshell of an episode, and the episode I'm talking about was released earlier this morning. Earlier today. That was, clevatess, episode 10, I believe. And if you saw the episode, it was a bombshell of an episode. A lot of bombshells were dropped. The first one was that it turned out that the 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 supposed king that we met in the first episode, he comes back, and it seemed like his kind of mastermind, or not the mastermind, but I'd say a piece of a crucial puzzle was solved, and it seemed like he was the main. Uh, he was his instead of Dural. It seems like the king, or as Clint calls him, the headless king. Seems like he really knows. He's the one who's actually working with. It seems he's the one who's actually working with the Demon King of the other North. I'm guessing, and I'll explain that later. But it seems like he's the one working with the Demon King instead of Dural. And there was a question when I watched it, and that was that, like, since Clan called him the Headless King or whatever, did he, like, is the Headless King, was he known? Was he like a known villain before he attacked? Or is he just calling him the Headless King because obviously right now he's headless? And for some reason he's still alive. But from the way Clint is talking, it sounds like he's already an established, like he was already an established person in in their world. And so it just seems like, if that's the case, because if you guys noticed, later in the episode when we get that flashback, we see the real king, when he was still prince, and he looks like, like he was still with life and everything. So what I'm saying is that he probably somewhere between that point and 20 something happened between that point and the present, to where the prince was like switched out. I'm guessing by, if I had to pin out one person, it would probably be like one of the demon kings, and I'll explain why I think that. So the reason I think that is because, so if you watch the episode, Dural goes into explanation of like how he got the Dragon Slayer King, the Dragon Slayer title, and that title, he always explains like how he was, friends with Alicia's father, and basically like they went out. Well, basically my Alicia's father, got the title of the hero because before he was, the student role was master, but Alicia's father obviously beat him, and then he was kind of gifted the treasure, which, if you guys didn't know, which was turns out the sword that Drell has. So I didn't know that. I didn't know if you guys knew that. But anyway, so they go on this quest because apparently there's this legend of that particular sword, of it being like, oh, you have to, like, it takes power from your first kill. So choose your first kill wisely, pretty much. That's what the prince says. And so, Alicia's father decides, oh, let's attack the dragon that I think is the guardian for one of the demon kings. I think this the one in the north. So they're fighting this dragon king, this dragon, and they almost beat him. Well, they do. Um, at least his father almost does. With but something happened. He tripped, and then he had to give Darrell the sword to kind of finish the dragon off. Darrell does it, cuts in one slice, whatever, and then out of nowhere, the real Demon King shows up, and we see it's like a big dragon. Like, I think if you saw like How to Train Your Dragon 3, one of those was very big, dragon, like colossal size dragons. The type of dragons that look like they have a hard time flying. That's how big they are. And this one has multiple eyes. So after, and once he got there, like he said a very ominous thing. He said, "Oh, you're carrying that with you now, boy." Kind of insinuating like he knows what that can do. And then it just kind of skips back to a part like, oh, he woke up and like as if nothing happened, and he was just like in a footprint, which I'm guessing is the Demon King. So what also ends up happening, which I didn't know, was apparently is part of the source power. The reason it's so important for the first skill is because it takes power. So I think you saw in the episode, he'd literally summon that dragon. So like, I guess has to do with summoning powers or something. But yeah, I feel like something definitely has to do with that. I feel like, I know I've been all over the place, but I really feel like the Demon King of the North, that big red dragon, and the Headless King now, they're the true, they're the true, like, masterminds, those two. Because I also feel, now that I'm talking about it, I also feel like the reason the prince decided, choose your first kill wisely, is because to me that's probably like a sign that like, oh, that's when like they probably like switched them out even before that, so like they even switched them out way before like he was a prince or something. Maybe like in his early like teenage years or like youth or whatever, but whatever. And that implies that his little family was involved, but I guess we'll save those questions for a later episode. But yeah, I guess the big thing is that we kind of see who the main perpetrator, and it seems like it's gonna be the Demon King of the North and the Headless King. Now, one thing that happened also was that, so we see in the beginning of the episode that the guy that turned into a bird, he shows up, and he wonders like what's happening with clevatess, his trap, whatever. And then while he's figuring that out, he meets one of the captains. If you saw the episode, like he was very frantic. He was like, "Oh, I need to get there now," whatever. And the bird guy, he comes up with a not genius, but plan to use them pretty much like clevatess does with Alicia. He plans to use him, and obviously he sets boundaries for that, and we see the captain accept. So finally we see the bird guy and the captain kind of go toward the battlefield where Darrell is. But yeah, that was kind of that was kind of it. Like I said, this episode was honestly like a bombshell. A lot of things were really um, revealed. Um, um, yeah, I guess that's it. I guess the last thing I'll talk about is the last thing before the episode ended. So, the last thing we see is that we see that Headless King, he now has the baby. Like, he's in the furnace room with Glenn, and he has the baby over the furnace. And it's deduced that he wants to drop the kid in the furnace. Now, hopefully they clear it up in the next episode. Um, but yeah, hopefully they clear it up. But I think I'm gonna just end it there. Please leave a like, subscribe. See you next time. Bye.